Hello, friends. Is life too complicated? That's the question.
Hmm?
Is life too complicated? What do you think, Kim? You have four possible answers. It's yes. Oh, it's oh yeah. Uh-uh. What you talking about? And sorta. Those are the four options we have. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No way, Jose. Uh,
So why did they not pick up Becky and Shane?
I'm not sure what happened.
They decided to go eat.
I think Abraham was a little upset at them for some reason.
Right. So the thing is what he did was he left them there and they decided to go eat, knowing that we would have to drive. I mean, it's just,
It's okay. I wouldn't do it.
but it pisses me off. Like, he tries to come up with excuses why they weren't able to pick them up when the reality of it was is he didn't want to hang out with them or he was upset with them. And if he really did want to make sure that they got home properly, they would have used their phones to communicate.
Right.
So it pisses me off that he comes up with some other reason why they weren't able to, you know, hook up with them.
Is life too complicated?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
No, but what I'm saying is do they have no disregard for how disrespectful it is to you in a sense that
okay. For my, I get you, Kimmy. I get you. I understand why that's annoying
like
to you.
wait fucking 15 minutes or use your phone?
I feel you, dog. Um, but but you could probably imagine yourself in a situation where you say, you know what, I just can't deal with it. Let them deal with it. It's conceivable to imagine yourself in that. Too. Let's not be too harsh on
Okay.
you around it. But I feel you. I got you. It did. It did.
He took them there. It's his responsibility to get them back.
Okay. I okay. I agree. So this is one of the things that makes life very complicated, right? People have competing interests. Um, Abraham, at a certain point, I guess, decided he didn't want to be hanging out with Becky and Shane. Laza Am, for friend, you ran out of weed. I'm sorry to hear that. Did that make your life too complicated? Running out of weed? Um, well, this is a textbook situation where we have a complication, right? Now, and we've got a situation where Kimberly's upset at Abraham for ditching Becky and Shane and making me go pick up Becky and Shane. Basically went with me. He volunteered to go. I made sure he understood
I'm
it
mad
was
for the reasons that he's not being honest with me. So it has nothing to do with the fact, that's what I'm upset about.
so I was going to get to that part. So, okay, there's that aspect of things, right? But there's also the process. So, Kimberly would probably have been okay if she approached Abe and he's like, "Sorry, I know I fucking dumped this on you, and I didn't want to do that, but I just had to get out of there right then, and I really do apologize, and I'm sorry I didn't stick around." Then she probably wouldn't be mad at him right now. Is that true?
Yeah.
It,
But then
it's
he came in and after the fact and like tried to do some like sweeping and it was bullshit.
okay. So I mean,
That be for you.
what you're saying there is it's a process thing. Respect you enough to be honest with you, admit that he did the thing, and
I know exactly what happened. You just come clean with it. Don't try to like come up with some other dumb lie. They wanted to get away from him. They decided to go to dinner. So in essence, they ditched him. The time that it took for you to drive back to get them was the time that they spent having dinner. If they didn't want to agree to get Becky and Shane back, then they should never have said, "I will take my car."
well, I agree with you. And the thing is, you're objecting purely on principle. It didn't affect you directly at all. You didn't have to go do anything, right?
No.
Oh, that's not my phone. That's the sound of a car. Um, so you're just basically saying you don't like the fact that Abe positioned the way that he did, stuff like that, and that I restarted when I got back from getting Becky and Shane from the train station. So the thing is, in general, I've been somewhat disquieted over the course of the day. Firstly, because I've really become fond of the word disquieted. And I was talking with Spacey in the car about the word disquieted and how it suggests that if you have been disquieted in some fashion, or that something disquiets you, that you have a natural state of quiet that is disrupted in some fashion by noise in the ontological data stream, right? So it's an interesting frame. It presumes that unless external things disquiet one is in a natural state of quiet. Have you ever read the Book of Disquiet? No, never heard of it before. I am tired and was tired, but I got an interesting conversation in the car that I wanted to continue on the live stream, basically, because this is one of those rare live streams where I come up with an actual topic that I want to sort of parse out and understand the specifics of. Um, so it's like the issue of complication is one of expectation versus reality, ultimately, and and communicated expectations are something that is about which we can have some kind of general rules. So it's like Kimberly's mad right now because basically Abraham didn't take accountability for what he actually did, but tried to sell her on some spin, right? And she doesn't like that, and I don't think really anybody likes that. Yeah, what is that book about? Being disquieted? A sad Portuguese man. Yeah, the thing is, as Spacey indicated in the car as well, disquiet would seem to imply the opposite of quiet, namely loud, but it doesn't mean that. It means the uh, unsettling of somebody in some capacity. But the fact that it means that suggests that, again, you're in a natural, that prior, that other than being disquieted by certain things, one would be in a state of quiet. And what does that mean exactly? It would seem to suggest that a a well and happy and fully functioning person in some capacity is quieter. I mean, that they think less, that they're less anxious, less anxiousness, less agitation, not necessarily less thinking, not necessarily less speaking, but maybe speaking more mindfully or something.
No, I think you're right. I'd say generally less agitation and less anxiousness would probably kind of cover what it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
zeroing in on.
Yeah. So anyway, one of the reasons why I've been interested in the word disquiet today is because I felt like it was the best way to describe how I felt. Uh, and I feel disquieted somewhat over the course of the last week in ways that are not necessarily bad, although disquiet seems to have a inherently negative connotation. But that seem to suggest growth areas. I was disquieted by my own behavior yesterday because I kind of freaked out about some shit and screamed a lot. Sometimes the screams just gather up in me and come out unbidden. And that's disquieting to realize that I'm behaving like that. And it's not something I have a history of doing particularly. Uh, like that, anyway. I tend to prioritize FE things more highly than that. So it's disquieting. And I've been disquieted by some of the words of other people as well. Like knowing that there's this FE expectation that people are going to go about their interactions and keep on a cheerful face and tell the effy effective stories of banality instead of despair. You know, it, that there's a sort of sense that nobody wants to hear the truth if it's not pleasant enough. But of course, in order to have a deeper and more nuanced understanding of reality, one has to come face to face with some of the weights of reality, some of the things that aren't clean in the way that you might want them to be, some of the things that aren't joyful and happy in the way that you might want them to be, um, some of the things that aren't easy to solve in the way that you want them to be. And um, I mean, I don't think that any of the 7 people who came here were, no, wait, the 7 is including me and Kim. We didn't come here, we were already here. Any of the 5 people who came here expected exactly the trip that they've experienced so far to be the trip that they expected, you know? Do you guys have any comment about that? Either you two? Has it been different than you expected?
Not entirely.
Not really, no.
Kind of expected some disquiet, and I expected some.
Well, I guess that speaks poorly of my prognostication skills. Oh, I need to turn these mics up. So the beginning of this will be too quiet, but now it'll be fine.
Now it'll be disquiet.
Yeah, now I've disquieted it. So Ron Morgan says, yes, people should say what they fucking mean. It's interesting. It's hard. I realize I catch myself not saying what I mean, or not. I catch myself being non-responsive. Like sometimes Kimberly will ask me a question that I don't want to answer because I don't want to think about it. I don't want to make a decision right then, basically. So she'll say, okay, so are we doing internet tomorrow or are we should we wait? And I'll just be like, or she'll say something like, I can't think of a perfect example. You think of any examples? I can think of, I know it's happened like 3 times in the last several days where.
Do you know if you want to do any typings tomorrow before we leave?
I don't know. I can't think of it right now.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of thing. And maybe, Kimberly, that's not a fucking response. What is that thing I'm giving her? It's just saying, I don't want to tell you the truth, which is, I don't want to talk about this right now. Can we talk about it later? You know? Instead, I go, Kimberly, like, don't you get yet that you are not supposed to ask this question?
And it's hard to recognize sometimes.
But that's insane, of course.
Yeah.
She should ask that question, and I should answer it instead of running in fear from basically saying, I don't.
It's making a commitment. You're running from making a commitment.
But see, the thing is, I'm not actually running from making the commitment to type somebody. I'm running from doing the logistical legwork to figure out when to make that commitment. I'm running from the interfacing, the back and forth with the person. If I were told at any given moment, Eric, you got to type right now, come sit down in front of the computer, start it, here's the person, I would have no problem doing it all the time. It's just because then it's just action, deliberation, action, deliberation, action, deliberation. I don't have to do any interfacing. And I don't have to really do any knowing except the knowing I already have, which is my SI knowing about cardinal function, stuff like that. So it's a weird reality, right? It's like I make my life so much more complicated by avoiding the processes I don't like. I don't have to make it more complicated, but I let my reflexes make my decisions. Um, but of course, with enough metacognition, presumably one can change that.
Yeah, I'll let him know. Thanks again.
Did you want to go to the store?
Yeah, sure. Good luck.
Perhaps I need. Perhaps you need a behavioral detox. Is that it? Is that a loaded question? A loaded suggestion, I guess. Have you considered having the stick removed from your ass? It's basically that. At least you have enough self-awareness to realize that. I don't know that everyone does. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's both the symptom and the root of the problem, which is we all struggle to see realities that run afoul of our expectations. And the closer they get to our ontology, the more they run afoul of our expectations, the more volatile it gets. So if I go to the store and expect them to have charcoal and they stopped carrying it last week for some reason, that's a minor annoyance and I'm not going to freak out. But if I come home and I find my wife in bed with another man, then I'm going to freak out because that's expectation is close to my ontology, is as close as it can get to my ontology. And the fact that reality is deviated from that expectation means I'm going to go into emergency firefighter mode. Now that's certainly not something that's happened to me. And that's not one of the complications I have in my life. Kimberly and I actually feel more. I don't think I've ever felt quite so confident that a partner is not cheating on me and will not cheat on me than I've ever felt about than I feel like Kimberly. I feel more confident about her than anybody before. And I think the reason for that, except for prior to being cheated on the first time, in which case I lived in
You did not
in
have
a
those
mist of-
jealousy problems with Candace.
I said, how confident do I feel that you're not going to cheat on me? That you seem to think that my expression of jealousy correlates somehow to my confidence about whether or not you're going to cheat on me. As I've explained to you a million times, my sexual jealousy is the retarded cousin that comes out of the house occasionally and accuses you of because you're wearing a yellow hat. Now, we don't take him seriously. I'm not acting upon his judgment.
What are you eating, Spacey?
Candy.
Those maple candies.
And beyond that, that's an issue we've already resolved in full, the sexual jealousy thing. So, in other words, you expressed concern about you didn't like my expression of sexual jealousy, so I eliminated them entirely.
Thank you, my love.
You're welcome. Over says no loaded questions, but I could go for a loaded baked potato.
A what?
A loaded baked potato.
Oh.
I mean, it's got chives, it's got butter, it's got sour cream, it's got
cheese,
guinea pigs,
bacon,
shredded guinea pig. Can you put a little shredded guinea pig on my baked potato, please? Ooh, we don't carry shredded guinea pig. You don't?
We carry shredded pig.
It was figurative. I'm just saying that, no, I mean, I wasn't jealous about anything specific. I just had a general, scrutinize and check for wrongdoing approach that presumably was going to make sure that she was policed enough that she would never be able to cheat on me or something. And I just had to, Kimberly basically called me out on it and said, you got to stop that shit. And I couldn't defend it. I couldn't win the argument, so I had to stop, And that's how life should work. If you can't win the argument, you have to stop. If you can, then okay. but it doesn't really usually work that way. I've got this little hair on the tip of my nose I'm trying to get off there. I have to get in there when I go to the bathroom. It's difficult to get. It's a stubborn little mule. It buries itself in the ground of my nose.
Every 3 weeks.
So anyway, I was thinking as we were going through this day that all 7 of the people in this group have complicated situations and lives and stuff. Like the things aren't very clear cut. Like we all want, I think, we all sort of hope still that there's somebody out there who can explain it all, who got it all figured out, and go like, okay, all right, this is a simple thing you need to do because you're almost there, and then you're going to be there, and you'll be happy and realized in full, and I think everybody still hopes there's sort of somebody out there, some Santa Claus, some Jesus, some
Answer to
person
it all.
some person who's got it figured out. And so then you know, like, okay, I don't have life figured out, but it's figure outable. Somebody's got it figured out, and I can maybe get it figured out. I mean, the thing is, there are a lot of particulars that comprise a person's identity. Some of those particulars are non-universalizable, at least. I mean, a lot of them are. So for people, especially with people SI in the front of the stack, their experiences do a lot to define them. And it's difficult to thereby come up with a sense of what ought to be, because it's impossible to understand in full enough detail what has been, and it's impossible to understand, if you're not that same type, the extent to which and the manner in which what has been impacts what is now. There's also other particulars like circumstances, conditions around you, other people around you that you don't choose in life, and how much they facilitate or interfere with your actualization, for lack of a better word, or optimal realization of self, or optimization of self. You don't have to reach optimality, which is probably impossible, or meaningless, one of the two. People treat me like their own personal Jesus. Hang in here. Will you wash my feet? Then forgive me. Then give me some wine. Here's a jug of water for you to turn into wine for me. Is that what they do to you? The Jordan Peterson effect. Oh, you mean I'm saying I'm really talking about the seeker that feels as though Jordan Peterson is giving them what they need, mostly just because he's telling them what to do clearly, and how to be clearly, and he's taking a clear moral position on things, and that makes him a much better candidate for a guy who's figured it out than most at first blush, anyway. I guess if you're looking for somebody who's figured it out, then that person would act like they figured it out and tell you how to do it. Listen, there are 12 rules to life. Okay, first of all, clean your motherfucking room, bitch. I told you this for years now. I'm Jordan motherfucking Peterson. You need to clean your goddamn room. Also, pet cats. Let's see if I can pull some other arbitrary shit out of my ass. Sorry. This is, I don't mean sorry, but I sort of do, because it's like, that's a character I don periodically, because I think it's sassy or something. I don't dislike Jordan Peterson at all. He's fine. He seems like a nutty TE guy, He's fine. BTE. I like his politics. Great. He's a little. I don't like that he self-identifies as conservative. That's just making him part of the problem again, trying to be part of some group or something. But I don't want other people giving me the answers to life, not fun. Well, that's typical of, I would say, Alpha Quadrant in general. I don't know if you are or not, but I'm okay with people giving me answers if they're powerful enough. I like it. Maybe it's as I'm getting older, I'm doing a better job of seeking input from others in general and trying to benefit from the wisdom of others. Because the thing is, even if you go around and look for all the answers to life from a bunch of different people, it won't clarify things really. But you'll have takeaways at least. It'll open things up. I don't know what kind of clarity one can have on a question what's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life? What makes a life well lived versus a life poorly lived? It seems the only question that really matters, and yet it seems almost impossible to answer. Do you want hand holding while you figure things out for yourself? He's touching his, squeezing another. Okay. But do you feel me though, dog? But do you feel me when I say life is perhaps maybe a little bit sort of too complicated? I mean, I'm disquieted, Annie H, frankly. I've got these guests here, and there's darkness in each of us. It's not all laughter and fun times and jamming out and man. Well, I'm just sort of coming to terms with the more complicated realities of life and how there are some problems that are very difficult to solve. That's one of the key components here of what I'm saying. Here's something to think about. Fear, you must understand, is more than a mere obstacle. Fear is a teacher, the first one you ever had. Right. Huh.
There's some truth to that.
You actually made me think with this one, philosophical thinker. That may be your most impactful chat yet. Yeah, I got to think more about that one. That's interesting. I appreciate you sharing that with me. Can God patch in a spectator mode, for goodness sakes? No, there's no spectator mode. That's another problem. There's no pause and there's no spectator mode. The only pause we have is conditionality. I think pain is the first teacher. You have to feel pain before you can fear it. Huh. Pain, huh? I mean, I don't know about that. I think I can feel a great deal of fear if I were in a circumstance where I fuck up and I'm gonna have to admit it or something. Then is that the pain I fear, and that it would be the other person's condemnation, probably, or I don't know. TE time. We all have complications. However, with fear and reverence, we need to raise our ragged sails. With fear and reverence, we need to raise our ragged sails and make the best of it and soldier through. And man, I didn't get shit accomplished. And okay, well, yeah. I mean, there's never be a day when we take down our own ship, you know. But there are plenty of occasions when individuals may feel as though their ship really isn't worth sailing anymore. And it's reductive and dismissive to simply suggest that there's an easy solution to that. The reason I say this is because, you know, I was struck by my reaction to Abraham's comments about Delilah's type, where I was very annoyed by it because he was sort of calling into question. Well, he was calling into question my objectivity on the matter again, without actually having any reasons. He was saying, you know, he thinks she's an ESFP. Fine, you think she's an ESFP. I don't give a fuck what you think. But then, you know, he started trying to give me suggestions about how I could get more information about it and things I could do to check her type. Well, I don't have any doubt about her type at all. So I don't need to check your type at all. I don't want it. I would like to, if it were to happen, I'd love to have a few people come in, you know, and actually test her TI directly, because then there'd be no disputing it, and there's no reason why anybody shouldn't. But the point is, there's no reason why anybody should doubt my assessment of that. The only reason you could possibly doubt my assessment of that is just saying I'm unable to be objective about my own daughter. That's simply not true. I don't know how that got to there. But anyway, I mean, my reaction was I got angry because it's like, oh, this is where I got there from, because I've done all the thinking about it already. This person's coming in. They've got no real knowledge of the thing. They're doing some ideational work about it in front of you and going, but of course, their ideational work presumes that really Eric's wrong about this. She's an ESFP, and how can I convince him that she is? You know, which is fine. Not super angry. I mean, I yelled at him and stuff or whatever. So, you know, because I don't have any question about her type. She's an ESTP for sure. Actually, I do have a little question about her type. I still think she's an ESTP. I'm pretty sure about it, and remain that way, and have remained that way for quite some time. But I'm not completely eliminating the possibility still that she's an ENTP. But I don't know. But she's definitely not an ESFP or an ENFP. She's not an FI user. She's definitely a TI tool user. I can conclude this the same way I do with everybody else, which is it's very obvious when you start asking some TI questions what slot that shit's in. I mean, in terms of whether it's 1, 2, or whether it's lower, or whether it's polar. Those are the three things you can tell between. I didn't do anything except get high and watch Chinese cartoons. Well, I mean, this is the thing. Is it really the case that that's a waste of your life? A lot of people would say, yeah, right? I think the point is, I've done all the thinking about it, I've done all the work about it, and blah blah blah. And here comes in this person who doesn't know anything about it and starts giving me random advice, assuming my basic frames are wrong for whatever God knows reason, without thinking about it at all. I suspect that this happens a lot when somebody's honest enough to be like, life's hard and shit's flat and gray and pointless and shit, I feel that way sometimes, more than I used to, for sure, a lot more often than I used to, and I'm not sure what it's all about. There's some things that we need in order to make everything else go properly. And if you don't get that, no, I'm not having a midlife crisis. I'm being weighed down by the complications of life, frankly. As I get more mindful, I'm compelled to feel more the weight of shit around me. In other words, my FI polar, it becomes a less effective shell over time, and my NI ignoring becomes less well ignored in time. Those things are ways that are your sort of attentional stack serves the self in selfish ways. Your polar's selfish. I don't have to ever use this thing at all in order even to care about it at all, because I don't even know what the fuck it is. Your fifth slot is self-serving. It's like you uphold that value well, naturally. So that's the value you judge everyone on, including yourself. Let's see. How tall is it? Me and all these Chinese people. So we're going to choose the metric for this contest. Who's the tallest? Okay. Hey, look, it's me. That's how we do our fifth slot, right? It's like it's the easiest thing we can succeed on. So let's just go ahead and judge everybody accordingly. And then the seventh slot, well, I don't have to pay. I would just invalidate everybody's shit like that. Eighth slot is where freaking the rubber meets the road, really. And that's where we make or break, I do feel lucky it's taken this long to feel this way. I get now more thoroughly than I ever have before the huge distinction between my experience and other people's experience. Are they loud and all look at me, pay attention to me, or do they sit there and respond? Okay. That's about the ISFP, ESFP question. She's tearing me apart. Farming. Farmer Paul's beloved. Who's Farmer Paul's beloved? I don't know. I don't feel being torn apart. I feel like I'm undergoing an extremely vigorous workout that I may be pushing a little hard. Like I'll probably end up slightly injured, but there's a lot of I'm getting bulky, I'm getting buff, I'm getting cut. Do you think I'm having a stroke, or you think warped Remius is having a stroke? Or perhaps you're talking about fate wind. Some ISFPs can get very heavy. So, try to restrict them to salads, beans, and what's that stuff that nobody likes? Kale. Oh, yeah. Well, I hope you mean you think he's masturbating? Is that what it means when you say you think he's having a stroke? What are you doing in there? I'm just having a stroke. Just having a little stroke here in the bathroom. Yeah, I'm just not as lighthearted as I used to be. I'd like to return to my more excited state of self that I've known for most of my life. Even when shit was ugly before, I never had any. I didn't have all this weight. I wasn't emotional in the way that I am now. I didn't feel like crying a lot of time for no reason. I know an ENTP who always complains about his messy ISFP wife. What function is the ENTP using? It's SI seeking, and he's not getting it, and so he's like, just without even realizing that's what he's doing, he's complaining about. All he's saying is, "You aren't the person I need. You are not an ISFJ. You need to be an ISFJ. Stop being an ISFP." Well, that's not going to work, ENTP. You need to leave her and get with an ISFJ. NE is cute. NI is sexy. I mean, I think FI is sexy. I think FISE is sexy as fuck. But I won't want to marry him. Ain't gonna get no SI out of that. Sure, it's demonstrative. Sure. It ain't the same as dominant. She only uses it like to remember things and tell stories. That's it. Or Annie. Well, he probably is using FE in that context for sure. Like, it depends how you mean the question. What is he using when he complains to somebody else, to some third party about his messy wife? He's using FE, correct. In that instance, he's using FE, and it's just his natural NE need to talk shit out. He's got to talk shit out with somebody. There's no way for an ENTP to deal with any piece of reality in their life except by talking about it. And ideally, if this reality involves another person, talking with that other person about it. If I'm not allowed to talk adequately about my concerns and thoughts and feelings and problems or whatever with my partner, it'll drive me crazy. I just go insane. And I does need to simmer. Needs to simmer down. Oh, my ISFJ girlfriend is always stuck in her past and using it to determine her present happiness. I mean, to me, her future is all that she should be concerned about. It's hers. The past is not real. Well, that's because yours SI is instrumental. So to you, you get using all that information when it's useful, but it's not an absolute value of any sort. For her, it is. That's why you need to leave your ISFJ and get with an INFP. Hey, Eric, do you know what your Enneagram tri-type is? Yes, I am. I've self-identified for a long time as 784. And I still do. Actually, I realized, yeah, I'm 784. 784. Yeah. But the alpha quadrant's true value is just talking and needing to express themselves and be heard and hate being shut up, especially ENTPs. Do not shut me up. Do not tell me I can't voice my opinion about this thing and make sure that my words are heard. That's the way that all evil in the world happens. I don't have depression. Supernova? Um, no, I don't have depression. I have existential growth issues. Um, well, look, by and large, I tend to keep live streams very light. This live stream is an acknowledgement of the world's darkness. The thing is, I don't feel as though I own much of that darkness, although I've been leasing some for a while now. But I really feel as though, oh, Peter Dentis, you're headed to La Quinta this Friday, visiting Grandma. Sunday is my sister's birthday. I believe people are leaving on the Sunday, I believe. So that should be fine. You can come visit me regardless. You know. How do you own darkness? Isn't it a lack of something? I mean, no, I don't see it as a lack of something. Not metaphorical darkness of the soul, certainly. There's a richness to severity, seriousness, weight, just quiet. There's it makes life have an element of significance that it wouldn't otherwise have, to some sense. If you, it's something that you have to include in a very balanced fashion into your whole understanding of shit. Just as you have to make some bad decisions to know what a good decision is, for one thing. You have to make some bad decisions to disrupt the orderly flow of things and force some things from you, whatever they might be. But you certainly don't want too much of it. It's not good to have to carry too much weight. It's not good to experience trauma. It's not good to persist in a state of negativity or unhappiness for long stretches of time. I'd say my current state is, I mean, to a certain extent, my heart really ached this morning because I felt a great need to resolve the differences between Kimberly and me, and in part it had to do with having in front of me other couples who were obviously and visibly more kind and affectionate to each other than me and Kimberly are. But of course, it's important to remember as well that one of those other couples was brand new kind of relationship, and there's naturally the enthusiasm of new love and whatnot. NE looks at objects as a caricature of what it is, comedic, while SE does not. Do you find this to be true of yourself? Do we look funny? Do we look at objects for the funny in them? I mean, I do a lot of times. I like to make a lot of jokes. I try to be clever a lot of time, and I'm intermittently successful. Mad Biscuit says, I don't think you should integrate your dark aspects. You should get rid of them. I'm not saying you should integrate your dark aspects. I'm saying that, I'm encountering darkness around me, which is sort of opening my eyes to the fact that life's hard and complicated, and the some of the narratives that we rely on to provide us a sense of constancy that's necessary to be a self across time. Those things require an awareness of darkness, not a ownership of it, in the sense that you're going to let it take the reins, but neither a denial of the interests it tries to represent. You know, if I'm saying, let's just pretend I'm saying a bunch of like angry things about corn farmers all the time. Fucking corn farmers, I fucking hate them. You know, if I'm doing that, there's some part of me that voice is representing, some interest of mine that it thinks it's serving, that voice, that narrative package, right? So then the question really becomes, how can that individual serve that part's interest without giving it control of the car? And when it's driving, it says a bunch of negative things about corn farmers. But the part that's protecting himself is really a part that says, I need to have somebody below me, somebody I can compare positively to. And I've picked out corn farmers for some reason. So the fact that the darkness comes out is not a problem implicit with the interests that the behavior represents. Rather, it's a problem of allowing those interests to take the reins and them prioritize. They're single issue parties, so to speak. You know, hi guys.
Hi.
How you doing?
We're doing good.
Good.
Spacey live or what?
Looks like he might be asleep.
No, wait.
So the point is I'm trying to make is, when you say the interest of darkness, self-destruction, no. Look, to say that somebody's experiencing some darkness just means some dark shit's happened, you know? Maybe somebody was traumatized as a kid. You know, Kimberly was certainly abused by a stepfather, and it impacts her native reflex towards trust. But that doesn't mean that the darkness in her is self-destruction. It's self-protection. There's no part of the self that does not work in the interests of at least a part of the self. Whether it leads you wisely or not depends on whether you let it control the thing or not. So when we allow ourselves to devolve to things that are expressly dark as either ontological narratives or as realities that simply can't be expressed in narratives, you know, this sort of thing it's something that involves negotiation with the self. It involves bringing the component parts of the self together, sitting around the same table, and having a real understanding and protective spirit towards even the parts of the self that produce, when given the control of the vehicle, what one might call darker realities. So the thing is, the problem's never that I get mad. If I'm Joe Smith, the problem's never that Joe Smith gets mad. The problem is Joe Smith got mad and punched somebody. The problem's not that Joe Smith got mad. The problem is that Joe Smith got mad and screamed profanities at the 4-year-old. So it's important to remember that despite Mad Biscuit's ridiculous parsing of the word, that that darkness is a failure to allow the right captain to steer the ship. So when I'm angry, but I'm allowing my more mature self, some sort of character that I play, but to the extent to which it's a character is kind of an open question. But when I'm a more mature incarnation of self, will still have many of the same conclusions, but will engage with the other person about it in a different way. The darkness is not implicit to the self. It's always necessarily got to be linked to some kind of behavior if it's communicable about at all between people. So that behavior could just be speech, but there's got to be some revelation of non-optimality. I mean, maybe that would be a better word than darkness, but it's so sterile. Non-optimality is not adequate to describe what people feel. You don't have to use the word darkness again, though. You can still say so. You can say something like heaviness or sorrow, heartache. I felt heartache today for a stretch. State of shock, creature blinded by the lights. If it is necessary, then it is good. Okay, well, way to blur the normative and the descriptive there, Mad Biscuit. All right, I gotta go. I'm gonna end this stream, I think. Unless everybody's coming in here right now. I'm gonna end this stream because I'm tired and I really want to go lie down next to Kimberly and feel just, affectionate or something. All right. Good night. Sleep well. Remember that no matter how complicated things get, how difficult or how sorrowful, it's reductive to think that there's not some potentiality out there for absolute and utterly satisfying redemption. It's just got to be attained.